It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooter Archery,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Antler Action,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots. Welcome back to episode number 400, everybody, at the Up North Journal podcast. I'm your host, Mike Adams, for the 400th time in your ear, and we've got Dan DeFaw in the cabin.
For your
125th time.
125th time?
Man, 400.
400. I tell you what, 400 episodes, almost 10 years for the Godfather himself. You know, that is pretty an amazing thing. You know, and I just want to start out by saying, I'm saying this for the whole entire podcast industry. Thank you to you for being the Godfather and making this vehicle go. And
it's been clunky at times.
It has. But, you know, it's just one of those things, as the Godfather of podcasting that you are, you know, it just is only right that, you know, you're doing your 400th show, almost 10 years in the industry.
That's right.
And, you know, I just got to say, awesome. And, you know, to show my loyalty to you for being that, I got something for you.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
He's got something. I'm almost, what in the heck are you doing?
Look at that. Brian Adams.
All right. I know where you got that from.
See?
All right. So short story. I got to explain now.
Okay, hold on. You got
to slide in just a little bit. You're almost off screen there. So slide over there you go. That's good.
All right. See that, everybody? Brian Adams.
All right.
Now everybody's like, well, his name's Michael Adams. Well, yes and no. Mm-hmm. So, but that's not it. You can explain the Brian Adams thing.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, I know, but I also found out, because we had dinner last night with the wives for our 400th, that you've got a story behind one of these.
Oh, so you do have one.
You see this?
That's yours? Is that yours?
No, this is the wife's. I went into the closet and found it. And
I think it's yours. I think it's yours.
No, this isn't mine. So you'll explain this in his younger days.
I used to wear one of them when I was riding the motorcycle because I used to wear full leathers. And I had no pockets, so that's the way I used to carry my keys, my wallet, my money.
In your fanny pack.
Yeah. Well,
so 80s of you.
It was. I was an 80s kid, man.
You were. So
rocked a mullet, you know.
Okay, I'm going to get Shannon. We're going to find some pictures.
Yeah, keep digging. Keep digging.
Oh, no. She'll come up with them for me.
Yeah, well, whatever.
But I got my Brian Adams fan shirt on.
So you need me to explain that, I guess.
Well, you're going to either that or you're going to have some questions as to why Brian Adams...
Well, my family knows the story behind this.
Exactly.
And my wife.
But for the longest time, I thought you had dual identity.
Yeah, it's my TV name's Mike, you know. I play Mike on TV.
That's right. You're...
Long story short, my full given name is Michael Brian Adams, okay? And it's spelt that way that's on your shirt there, B-R-Y-A-N.
I know, that's why the shirt fit.
And that's what I was known by throughout all of my life until I went to college, was Brian. My family called me that, my friends called me that. And when I went to college, every stinking piece of paperwork I signed for every single class was first name, middle initial, last name. And instead of going into every single class, every semester, with every professor saying, it's Michael B. Adams, but I want you to call me by my middle name. And it was way too much. So at that point in time, I decided to go by Mike. And once I took my internship with the TV station I currently work at from college, I did an internship through there, and it followed me there. And I was just like, oh, you know what? I've been doing this for 4, 5, 6 years now, so it stuck, and that's the way it is. And then when, you know, I started the podcast, I'm like, you know, let's break that,
you
know, personal side and professional side. So I carried it on into this. So that's why. You
know, exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the very first times that I met Shannon and she started calling you Brian, I had to look around and
who are you talking to?
Yeah.
So there, folks on the live stream that are watching, you can see this. He's got the Brian Adams T-shirt on. For those of you who can't see, we'll have to take a picture of it, post it online. But that's a little bit of personal history that that I've never talked about on the show before.
No, and you know what? It was a great dinner we had last night with the wives for our 400th.
Yeah, celebration.
Celebration.
Yeah.
but 400 episodes. Mm-hmm. You've changed a little bit in those 400 years.
No, 400 episodes, not years.
Well, 400 years.
I'm not
right.
Methuselah here. Or Noah.
Does it seem like 400 years at times?
There was times that seemed like 400 years. Yeah, it did. It really did. But we talked about what we're going to talk about today on the show before we started, and we said, okay, should this be a reflection show? Should it be about us? Should it be about the outdoors? So we figured we kind of do both. We reflect back a little bit, give you a little bit of personal background history of us, where we started, where we came from, and where we're at now, where we think we might want to go. So. Super Bowl Sunday, football's going on. People are really not concentrating a whole lot on other things. So we thought, what the heck, that's kind of how we'd roll this week with the show.
And I sure wasn't doing a polar dip, so.
The people did that. I watched some video today on that.
Oh, they had video of it?
Yeah, I went over and watched some video on Facebook on it, and some people I know actually did it that were our age, and they survived. So actually, people older than us did it.
Good for them.
So you should have done it, man.
Next, you can do it. I'll be your support team.
No,
I'll help you out of the water.
It's got to be a team effort.
It is. You do you go in the water. I'll pull you out. That's a team.
No. The team that I saw that went in with people I knew, they had a GoPro. They had the underwater housing on it, so they all jumped in with it, so they could all see with a selfie stick. Pointing back.
Really?
Oh yeah. See, we could do this.
No, you know what? I'll do it up at your hunting camp in July.
I might take you up on that because that water's ice cold.
At least I'll come out. At least I'll come out and it'll be warm sun. Not
you heard it here first, folks. Oh no, it's ice cold.
I know it's ice cold, but at least when you get out and you're in the warm air, it's not as.
All right.
So
we'll see. We'll start with that.
But my friend, 400 episodes later, it started with a wish from your oldest son saying, "Let's do this."
Yeah. Let's start this thing and try it. And for those of you who've listened, we've told this story many times.
Absolutely.
He wanted to do a podcast on hunting in the outdoors, and I helped him with it. And next thing I know, I got Dan sitting next to me now.
Yep, and your youngest son yesterday purchased a vehicle as he grows up. Jake is getting into the automobile fun stuff. Yeah,
that's the way to put it, fun stuff. Yeah, kind of strange. My oldest daughter and her husband bought a car yesterday, and my youngest son bought a car yesterday. So two of the kids bought their first car together yesterday as a couple.
Right.
And then my youngest boy bought his first car. Not that it runs, but it'll get there. It's a project car. So.
But it's a project car, but it just goes to show you. And then you got Maddie bringing up the last, but getting older.
Yeah, she's my serious hunter still. She's the one that really gets after it with me out in the outdoors still, and has a desire and strong drive and push. I'm not to say the others don't. It's just not as strong. They got other things going on in their lives right now, and that's understandable. So,
right, exactly. And it's all part of growing up, and we've all been through this. You and I have been through this.
Sure.
We've talked about this many times off show. That as our kids get older, they're starting to do their own thing,
right,
and leaves us kind of doing our thing.
Right, yeah, and that's fine. Things evolve, and even my own hunting philosophy and direction and everything. We kind of talked about this. This is some of the things we want to share today. When I started, I was knee high to a June bug. My dad had me in the outdoors. I don't know. My earliest recollections, I was probably 5 or 6, 7 years old, somewhere in there. Took me squirrel hunting, state land here in Michigan. And I proceeded to terrorize every moving critter that had fur on it that I could catch at that point in time.
Right, exactly.
Squirrels, chipmunks, birds, you name it. I was plinking at it, trying to kill it. So didn't have a true appreciation for the outdoors at that time. To me, it was more of a thing of, hey, I'm a kid, I got a gun,
yeah,
and I'm going to terrorize the woods.
What kind of gun was it?
It was a Remington. I think it was a Model 90. I think I still got it. Remington Pump 22.
Okay.
That was the first gun that I ever was able to handle and shoot, and it was relatively safe.
Did you have any BB guns?
Oh yeah. I had BB guns as well.
Did you have BB guns before you started out with the Remington, or?
Yeah, well probably about the same time.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, we took them things, and when I got the BB guns, we terrorized the backyards and birds and everything else. A typical kid from the in the 70s that was just shoot anything that he could.
Yeah, absolutely.
From soda pop bottles to frogs to like I said, I didn't have a true appreciation for the outdoors at that time.
Oh, absolutely not. I back I was basically a city boy, basically, and I did what I could. We used the BB gun a little bit, but
being in the city a little harder.
Yeah, and but where we had our store, we had a big garden, and I was able to use a bow and arrow as well.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that when I talk about me, but
Okay.
it just, but yeah, I'm assuming up here it was a little bit different.
Well, see, we started in the city and lived in Flint, right in town, and we moved out here when I was 9. Actually, right across the street from where we're at here in the cabin. For those who don't know, the cabin, our house here, is actually my best friend from high school's home that he grew up in. So I spent a lot of time here even before I owned the house.
Oh, okay.
So, but growing up in a rural, semi-rural community, we had woods behind us. We had a black dirt farm where they excavated black dirt, and which left lots of potholes, lots of frogs, lots of critters running around. And it was at that time in America, you could come home from high school or middle school at that time. So we moved out here 9th. I'd have been 5th grade, 6th grade. Yeah, middle school. And you could come home during hunting season. Once I got to be, I think it was 12, is when you could hunt with a rifle or shotgun or a bow and take off into the backyard, and I'd disappear into the woods. And as I got older, to 14, 15, 16.
14 is when you could go deer hunting.
Deer hunting is set on
12
private
is
land
small game at the
or
time.
public land by yourself, I think. I can't remember. But anyway, whatever that legal age was, I come home, I grabbed the shotgun, and I would head out and hunt rabbit, birds, squirrels. And then eventually, when I got a bow, when I was 12 years old, I remember that was the legal hunting age for a bow. I got my first bow, saved my money up, and it was a bear. And I believe it was, I don't think it was a whitetail, but it was the old style compound bow that had steel cable.
Was it the whitetail?
No, I don't think it was a whitetail. It might have been.
The whitetail was my brother's
It might have
first bow. I can remember that.
I don't know if you can. Yeah, you can see it here in the live stream. This bow right up here, this recurve. We've got 2 of those. That was the first. One of those was the first ones I ever used, to actually shoot arrows with.
Okay.
And then I graduated up to the compound. I bought that with my money and built a tree stand out back behind the house and proceeded to hunt deer and never shot anything with that bow. But
did you see any deer?
I would see deer, but nothing close enough to shoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was cutting my teeth. I was experimenting at that time, trying to be the stealthy hunter that my dad was, because he had it all figured out, I thought, in my eyes. And,
Right.
At that time, I guess, when you're looking as a child or a youngster or a young adult, you want parental approval. You want that recognition that, hey, I've done something, or I've made it to this plateau or whatever that, you think it makes you a man. And I thought, when I kill my first deer, my dad's going to think, he's going to say, hey, he's a man now. He killed a deer. Yeah, right on. And, I've talked about that story on the show before when I killed my first deer.
Yep, you have.
And the pride and joy I saw in his eyes. And it elevated me to, I thought, what he was an acceptable manhood.
Right.
In the outdoors. It's like, okay, he's accomplished in me what he needed to accomplish. He gave me the tools I needed to get out, be successful, kill a deer. So, and that's kind of how I started. 17 when I killed my first deer. Before that, I don't know how many squirrels I'd put in the freezer. And it was a good youthful time being in the outdoors. Not like today where you come home from school, you can't even think about grabbing a shotgun and going outside. Unless you live out way out in the country and you own, it's your own personal land.
Basically now, and we'll say we're in the country city here, that basically you're delegated to, if you grab your fish, I've seen kids grab their fishing poles and biking downtown.
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
But
they haven't taken that away from them yet.
Right. But plus they're keeping the kids so busy.
Yeah. School mandates so much of their time, whether it be homework, after school, curricular activities, kids are really into travel sports these days, and that takes up a lot of their time. Or video games. Video games is a big thing with kids. It takes away a lot of their time, and they just don't have that appreciation to get into the outdoors anymore. I feel.
I totally agree with you there. And, I hate to say it, but yeah, the video games and just going outside and playing in the dirt. Mm-hmm. Kind of not there anymore.
Getting dirty, getting a stick, diddling in the dirt.
Using your imagination.
Yeah, poking a stick in the fire. Burning your hand a little bit. Learning a lesson.
going out back, making a fort.
Yeah.
Our kids did a little bit, but No, the video game, and it kind of started with our generation, that the invention of the video games, and they built and built and built.
Yeah, I never got into that. I mean, I did, but not to the point where it consumed my life.
Yeah, no.
The outdoors was always an important part of my life, and I remember when I went to college, when I left home, I got my 1979 Malibu, and I drove to Chicago to go to school by myself for the first time at 17 years old. In the back seat was my deer head.
Really?
Oh yeah, it went to school with me.
There you go.
And it followed me from there. When I left Chicago and went to Eastern Michigan University, and it went with me there. It was in our apartment, had it on the wall. It was part of me. That was part of my upbringing, and I want to make sure to have those types of things with me. And yeah, I was always an outside kid. Loved being outside.
Yeah.
I
remember
chasing things.
I remember playing baseball from sun up to sundown.
Yep.
There was the five of us that would get up, and it started, and it's daylight. Let's go play some ball across the street. We play all day.
Yeah, right on.
Till the mosquitoes came out, and then that's the way it was, And we did a little bit of video gaming, not a lot. Actually, building models was a big one.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take our first break. We come back. I want to hear about kind of how you got started in the outdoors as a kid. So
we can do that.
We'll save that for the next segment here. So we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve cam system, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Throughout human history, one notorious killer has remained at the top and claimed more lives than any war or natural disaster combined. Mosquitoes. It's time to arm yourself and protect your family this season with Scent Blocker's new Bug Blocker for insects. Lasting up to 8 hours, Bug Blocker not only repels biting mosquitoes that can carry the West Nile virus, but other biting insects, including chiggers, biting flies, gnats, and ticks which can carry Lyme disease. Field tested by outfitters and guides from Alaska to Alabama and everywhere in between. The results are in, and Bug Blocker flat out works. In a high-potency sportsman strength dosage, using 25% no-nonsense DEET, plus 2 specific ingredients to target biting flies, Bug Blocker plays for keeps. For ultimate protection, pair Bug Blocker insects with Bug Blocker ticks.
Welcome back, everybody. Second segment of the show. Continuing our discussion about our outdoor heritage and upbringing that Danny and I have been so fortunate to be a part of.
Exactly. 400th show. Let's talk about ourselves a little bit. You hear about our follies out in the woods.
Oh yeah. Well, they had to start somewhere. I kind of give you a background into mine and how things rolled. What about you?
Right.
Where'd you cut your teeth?
So my dad was an avid pheasant hunter. That was their thing. Pheasant hunting. At the time when they were growing up, locally, there was a lot of cornfields around that they could just pick up the shotgun. Oh, we got to go get dinner.
Right. And
then go pheasant hunting.
You mentioned that last night at dinner when we were talking, that's kind of your dad would go out and get dinner.
Right, exactly. Hey, we got to go get dinner, and then he'd grab his brothers and let's go across the street. At the time, they could walk across the street right into a cornfield.
Okay. And
then by the time I came around, that cornfield was becoming the school.
Okay.
So, but even then, him, his brothers, and friends, they would go pheasant hunting, deer hunting religiously. They would go to the UP before there was the Mackinac Bridge.
Okay.
So they had this saying, because, we're going to leave on whatever night it was. We'll meet you in Mayo. Okay. Meet you in Mayo was a saying, because that's where they would all meet. Okay. They'd all wait for him, and then they would head up to the bridge and get in line.
Yep, for the ferry.
So you had to get in line. And they were good boys, and they waited in line patiently.
Right, okay.
But, so as my brother grew up, my brother went pheasant hunting, and he went deer hunting. And then I came along. And early recollections as a kid, like I said, our flower shop that we had a store. But behind the store, we had a 60 by probably 70 garden.
All right.
We had peach trees in it. We had raspberries.
Excuse me.
And, wildlife around there.
Right.
Now, I didn't use a BB gun then, but I remember, this is plain as day, from the corn stalks we grew in the fall, making a blind and sitting out there with the BB gun trying to shoot something.
Right on.
And then I'd use my stick and string, and I would go after grasshoppers. You know, the big grasshoppers?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I'd try to shoot those.
What kid never took a stick and a piece of string and tried to make a bow and arrow? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So I remember them up in the rafters of the store. I'd come home from school, or a Saturday morning when I was down at the store, I'd go and do that. As I got older, my dad would take me bird hunting then. And back then it was put and take. Right. And I was able, because I wasn't old enough to carry a shotgun at the time, but I was able to carry the BB gun.
Right on.
And then I was able to finish off the birds.
I gotcha.
When, I was the bird dog too. Mm-hmm. Hey, we got our Britneys, but if you want to go through there, you go right ahead. So I remember some good times back then, watching my dad, watching my uncle run his dog, and when his dog took off for the hills, him yelling at that dog like you wouldn't believe. But I was able to walk along, had some good times. Finally, like you said, as I got old enough to get into the small game hunting, did that at 14. My brother took me deer hunting.
Okay.
And it was in the UP, and he was under the impression, as it was getting back then, if you saw 5 deer in the week, you were really rocking. I mean,
that was a good time, huh?
So he took me out there, and I remember this. We get in the blind together. It was a log blind.
Ground blind,
yep.
Makeshift blind.
Yep, that he put together. It's been there for years. So he has me sit there, and then he gets really down low and comfortable. He's gonna go to sleep.
Right, and you're the bird dog again.
Yeah, I'm hunting.
Uh-huh.
He's sleeping, and it wasn't, I would say, 15 minutes, and there's a deer. And I said, Terry, there's a deer. And he's like, what? I said, there's a deer. And he was too low, he couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. And the deer was walking away, and I couldn't see the head. There was a log on a diagonal where I saw the body, and I couldn't see the head. Now, years later, that I put that back in my mind, I'm sure it was a buck. It was probably a spike.
Okay.
Just the way it was walking, the way it was going. But my brother never saw it. And so my dad also took me deer hunting. And I was able to, he would take me, walk me through the woods. And I remember one time, I wasn't carrying a gun at the time, so this must have been before I was 14. I had a walking stick, though. I was walking behind him, following along. And, of course, you know me. We came up a pine tree that was covered with snow, and snow, mm-hmm. and I whacked the branches, and it came down on my dad. And
yep, you get the look.
I was laughing, and he slowly turns around and goes, "Don't ever do that again." And I giggled, and we went on. But after that, my brother got me into bow hunting. I saved up my money. He got a Darton. I got a Pro Line. Mm-hmm. Was my first bow. And I think, now that I think about it, his first bow was a whitetail, a bear whitetail. Because mm-hmm. I remember the 4 pulleys.
Yep.
And but no, it just started then, and we'd go up to our cabin. We ended up selling our cabin, and then I started going hunting at the current time with my girlfriend's family, which is now my wife. Mm-hmm. And we started hunting in Mayo.
Okay.
And learned there. I hunted a lot in Port Huron here, which back then was phenomenal hunting. It's changed a lot, and I think that's just the sheer numbers thing going on.
Right.
But yeah, that's how we started working our way up. If I wasn't, it was summertime was playing ball, fall was hunting or some kind of hunting, and then I started working that. And like you said, you went to school. Mm-hmm. I was going to community college. Started working the hours. I saved up for a house, bought a house, and we continued hunting. Deb ended up getting a deer before any of us, so she was the first one to. I had bought her for her birthday a 308, and then she proceeded to kill something with it that fall. So she got the first deer of the family. My brother had already gotten a few, but it took me a few years later till I actually got mine. And then I kind of got into it. I was always into it, but it was just like going more and more towards the fact of being outdoors was the way to go, and fishing as well. that was another one. So if it wasn't fishing, it was hunting or playing ball, and that's the way it went. And when we started having kids, we just kind of continued on the fishing thing, taking them fishing where we could, and then we moved up to here, and I met this guy online.
I don't know who that'd be.
Yeah. The serial killer that lived a couple miles away and got into the whole turkey hunting thing.
And the rest is history, so to speak.
It is. It really is. And ever since kind of about that point is when the focus was not just being in the outdoors, but being in the outdoor industry. Mm-hmm. So I'm never afraid to learn something new, and it's been fun. And actually, it's kind of, for all intents and purposes, it's getting better every year.
I think so.
We're doing more and more. And
yeah, I think so.
We talked about it a little bit last night, sitting around the table. It's just we meet so many people,
right?
We so many different people. We meet strangers. We meet. It's a way to keep people together because every deer season, I'm up with family, and you're up at the club, mm-hmm. which is it's just a way to keep everybody together.
Right. Yeah. It's that communal thing of renewing old acquaintances, friendships, what have you, family members, getting a chance to see them. It's so sad. A lot of times, the only time we get to see family is at funerals or weddings. Weddings is a good time. Funerals is a bad time. But
that's been said before. We've said that at it was a funeral, I think. Why is it the only time that we meet is when at a funeral?
Right. Yeah. It's sad, but like you said, things change, things evolve. We've grown from being youngsters in the outdoors to where we're at now, and things do change. You get a job, you get a house, you get a family, pretty soon,
right? And then
things just kind of overwhelm you, and away you go.
We've used the hunting thing to keep us cousins together. Mm-hmm. My cousin Brian, my cousin Dennis, me and Brian, we've hunted together a lot. We go up north probably every year. I can't remember how many years straight it's been. Right. I know there was one year that I was up there then. So, but it's a way to, hey, we're going to be up at the camp. So, it's really nice. And now their sons are coming up. My daughters are coming up. So it's just, we're losing, our older ones. Mm-hmm. But we're gaining our younger ones. So we're just keeping the circle of life going.
And we're becoming the older ones.
Yeah, we are. We're in that transition period where we're going to the other side of 50, I guess we'll use as the halfway mark.
Right.
And, and my wife likes to hunt, so she's out there. She wants to get back out there doing that. And it's just, love the outdoors.
There's nothing better, man. It's, you can get philosophical, you can get spiritual about it, whatever
you want to do.
Whatever you want to do, but, there's nothing better than being out in the outdoors, being part of the outdoors, watching the sky wake up in the morning, watching the animals start to get active, or watching a sunset, and seeing everything start to go dormant, at the completion of a day, and everything that's in between, trying to outsmart an animal, figuring out how you're going to get ahead of them, or an ambush spot to be able to put them in the freezer, and make the shot, and can you make the shot, the practice that goes into it, of preparing to that one critical moment where you're going to pull a trigger.
And I think that's why I've kind of taken to turkey hunting a lot, because I do it around locally. So I go to work, and then when I come home, I head out and go turkey hunting, and it's that unwinding.
Mm-hmm. It's completion of a day.
Yeah, it's like, all right, now if you see a turkey or hear a turkey, that's just a bonus at the time. But It's like, all right, I've had a full day of work. I still got some time to go do some hunting. Let's get out there, and hopefully Mr. Big Bird walks in front of you.
Has the evolution of your time in the woods, you're hunting, like when you were younger and you first saw a deer or turkey, when you first started hunting turkeys, you get, we call it buck fever. You get all that anxiousness and anxiety and amped up and heart racing, everything. Do you still get that?
Yeah.
You do?
Absolutely. This past year was probably one of the, it was I talked about the story of being at your place at the end of the season. When I saw it, though, I was so relaxed I forgot I could shoot it.
Right.
Because of what we go through in the UP.
Right.
But it's just like, and then when I remembered I could shoot it, then it kicked in. It was like, oh my, I got to get ready. But yeah, no, when you hear, you're sitting there in the morning and all of a sudden you heard that first gobbler. Yeah, hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're like, all right, it's on.
Game on. Yeah,
Let's
now,
go.
Now it's cat and mouse.
Right, exactly. And then if they're coming closer or what or not. Or like we went out one time, me and my cousin Brian, and all of a sudden they walked in silent.
Right.
And just, I literally jumped because it scared me. And it's like, oh, there they are. But absolutely, I still get it. I still love that feeling when you see a deer. Watching them is just incredible.
Is it with any deer, or is it with bucks, or is it with big bucks?
Any deer.
Any deer?
Any deer, because you know what? We're out there deer hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see the game that you're after, okay, if I see a doe, but I can't shoot a doe, a 4-point comes in, but I can't shoot a 4-point. It still gives you that, like if a doe comes in, what's behind it, right?
Right.
You know, is there a buck behind
The
it?
anticipation.
Or like when I saw the 4-point, there was a doe, and right behind her was a 4-point.
Right.
It's like, okay, now give me the bigger buck.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't materialize. But
Right.
Do you still get it?
Not so much. I think my first buck I shot with a bow was the last time I really remember getting buck fever. You know, I won't. It's not so much it's an excitement, but it's not like the heart pounding, leaping out of my chest. Oh my gosh, I can't execute the shot. Mine's more like, okay, there he or she or it is. Okay, now where am I going to get in position? You know, then my mind goes into critical mode of how am I going to make this happen? You know, where do I have to set up? You know, if I'm gun hunting, which window is it going to cross in front of? Where do I have to get to? How am I going to make that move? When's his head going behind a tree? Is there anything else watching me? I'm more on that critical thinking point of how I'm going to get to the shot.
Absolutely. That's the second part of the equation.
Yeah, I just don't get. I don't know. It's not that I don't get excited anymore, but I don't get that just boom, 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 boom in my chest and my ear. You can hear your heartbeat in your ears to the point where you're almost frozen. You know, with excitement.
Right. You get that. And then you realize it's a squirrel.
Yeah, right on. So I don't know. Maybe that's come with. I don't know if it's come with age or time in the field or maybe hunting with my kids. Now I tell you what, hunting with my kids right before they take the shot. I get that. You know, with each one of them until they got their first deer. You know, now since then, you know, Madeline killed a doe not last year before last, and with that one it was kind of casual and laid back. You know, the whole hunt was
right.
So, but each kid that I was with each one of them when they shot their first deer, and I was more amped up and shook up about it before the shot than I ever was with anything I ever killed. You know, I don't know. I guess I was wanting to impart that, you know, that growing up or reaching of age on them to be successful, you know. So
I remember shooting a doe with Kelly in the blind, and she asked me why I was shaking so much.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I told her, well, when you have an audience,
right,
you don't want to screw it up.
Right.
And the deer went 20 yards and flopped over,
right.
Which was good. And then when she shot hers, when she put the arrow through the blind and still got the deer, that was good. But that one, it was a 2-day event because she shot it, we tracked it, couldn't find it, we found it the next day.
Right on.
But yeah, I think you're right. It's that maturity and seeing your kids do it, and when Erica got her rabbit, it just was. And she was so nonchalant about it. It was comical. But yeah, it's like, oh, they got their first one, whatever it might be.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's amazing as we grow older.
I still get the adrenaline dump though.
Oh yeah.
After a shot, whether it be with a bow or gun, you know, I wait, 15, 30 seconds. Then kind of when I just kind of sit back and all of a sudden, boom, I can feel the adrenaline dump.
Yep, exactly. I know I shot one of the deer I shot. I think it was like 30 seconds after I figured out why my ears were ringing. So it took, to come back into the moment. I shot, and then I was like watching the deer, and then when it all started to calm down, and I was like, my ears started ringing. I was like, wow.
Right.
Figure out I was too far back. I shot through the blind. But no, it's just it's a natural event that occurs.
Right on.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's step outside and take our next break. We come back. We want to expand on things just a little bit here about, kind of where we're at now and where we're headed. So we're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this.
So what do you do when you've completely redefined the way bows are engineered? When you've reached the pinnacle and the band starts playing your victory song, you start a revolution out of thin air. Introducing the all-new PSE Carbon Air, engineered with true carbon technology to be the lightest high-performance bow in the world. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
We know the future of hunting depends on our nation's youth. But did you know that in many states, it's illegal for you to take your son or daughter hunting until the age of 12 or even older? As a result, we have fewer young hunters, and the Families Afield program is designed to eliminate those barriers. Hunting is safe, and the safest hunters afield are young people with adult mentors. Visit our website at familiesafield.org to find out how you can bring more families afield.
Welcome back to the segment of the show. Kind of carrying on this whole theme of the outdoors here.
Yeah, so. The first two segments was kind of about us cutting our teeth into the outdoors.
Where do you think you're at now? You know, looking back at where you were and where you're at now. Wow, I mean, how have you grown?
How have I grown?
Yeah, how's your outdoor experience into the hunter, the outdoorsman, or whatever you call yourself now? How has that evolved and grown? Where
I think it's kind of grown to the fact of where we're kind of both going with kind of looking at what we do in the industry, but on a personal level as becoming more. I'm gonna need the word from you. Doing the logging project, working with the land,
conservationist.
Thank you. Being more of a conservationist, hunter second, you know, because we just got back our bids on the logging project this weekend.
Okay.
We'll be talking about it this week, but that's the beginning of going, you know, okay, how are we looking at the land that we do have and making it better for us and the animals that we want to provide for.
Right.
So as opposed to, I'm just going to go up there, I'm going to hunt, I'm going to cut the land, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have it logged, and we'll go from there and we'll hunt it. But no, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to cut it, but then we're going to work it.
Right.
You know, and this is going to be the opportune time, like I've said, to clean slate the acreage and say, okay, what do we want to do and do where?
Right.
Right. Kind of like what you're doing. You know, you've got food plots in, you're doing some cutting, you know, you're doing some, looking at maybe getting some trees in, replanting some stuff like we are. Mm-hmm. I think that conservation has come out more and kind of promoting that. We all love to get new hunters out there.
Right.
But not just for the sake of going out there to kill.
Right. Right.
You know, kind of, okay, you're going to go out hunting, yes, but what's the education part of it behind? And I think that's where we're at. Mm-hmm. I find myself, you're going to go out hunting. Excellent. You know, when we're out Cabela's or we're ever out talking to people, getting the younger ones involved, but not just picking up a bow and shooting it.
Right.
You know, knowing what you want to do, shooting very, you know, I want to shoot this bow. Why do you want to shoot it? Well, try this one.
Right.
You know, just not be focused on the aspect, I'm going to buy a bow, I'm going to go practice with it, I'm going to go kill with it. Mm-hmm. But learning the details of that.
Mm-hmm. Having a true appreciation for the outdoors and what it takes to get out there and manage it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, as far as that, I think the more of the conservationist in us is taking over. Mm-hmm. Plus, if we don't do it, what will our kids have?
Right.
What will their kids have? Mm-hmm. You know, just this year, you know, you've got a daughter that, you know, you've got little Benny and, mm-hmm. you know, okay, now think when he grows up.
Yeah, the things I'm doing at the club now is going to be things that he's going to be able to see when he's, you know, my age.
Right, exactly.
Depending on what trees are planted, you know, some of them take 40, 50 years to reach maturity. You know?
Right, you know, and that's the thing. And then I think that what that's translating into is looking into all these, when we go to do shows or we go to the ATA when we were there, killer food plots, mm-hmm. not just growing something.
Right.
There's a reason why you grow it, and,
right.
and helping the herd out. There's a bunch of seed companies out there. Go plant something. You're planting, but you're also helping.
Yeah. Don't just throw bait out to attract them to a site to shoot them. You know, put something out there that's going to give them nutritional value, that's going to help them stay healthy, make it through the winter, make it into next spring, help them in the fawning process with the does when they're carrying.
Right, and I think
those things.
That's where we're going. So what happened? Why we didn't do this earlier at our property is because my property was logged years back, and it's mm-hmm. now made it through the 20 years
mm-hmm. Regeneration.
Regeneration. Okay, now, and this is the opportunity that we can all start again.
Right.
But yeah, it's if it helps the deer, helps the bear, helps all the animals involved, it's a better thing.
Right on. Yeah, that's kind of I guess where I'm at. You're talking about conservationist. I never thought about it when I was younger. Even in my early 20s, it was just, hey, we're going to go deer hunting. I'm going to try to shoot a buck.
Right, exactly.
That was the goal. Is trying to put meat in the freezer. But everybody was after a buck, and without going into too much criticism or detail, here in Michigan, a lot of people are brown it's down. But that whole mindset's starting to change, and I've changed as well with this. It starts to come into being educated, and working in the outdoor industry has allowed me to be educated, and my whole mindset's changed. I mean, it's changed a lot, and to where my goal and focus and drive now is into educating others and working and giving back to the land versus taking from it. We're doing a logging project. We're actually starting, I think, this week on ours, if the weather holds. But instead of just taking it and taking the money and walking away, taking the money, putting it back in, recultivating the land, putting back into it. That's what's going to help the deer, what's going to help the turkey, the bear. All those different critters out there that need good habitat to make it through the winter. We just had an instance last week where we had a young fawn that was killed, and we estimate that was probably a late drop fawn, probably third rut breeding. Right. Because it was so small. Coyotes got it and killed it, and our camp manager was talking about how little this thing was when he first seen it. He went back to take pictures, and the whole carcass was gone at that point. But there's 3 separate tracks of coyotes that got in on it and took it. But you get to this point in the year, it's so hard for these deer to make it, and it's something that's so small. How do we help that? How do we keep that from happening widespread across the board with the deer? That's getting that buck to doe ratio in check and making sure that most of our deer are bred in that first cycle. So our fawns are dropped in late May, early June, so they have a chance to survive through the winter.
Right, exactly. And that goes back to having the first rut, second rut, third rut. Like you said, there's a scientific something behind that. Yeah. It's getting it all to one rut.
It took me a while to get to that point.
It's absolutely. We've read our books. We've talked about it on the show. We've learned. And it's one of those things we just grow into it.
Well, QDMA, when I first heard about them and first kind of started listening to what they had to offer, to me it was more about killing the big bucks. It was more about antler hunting than anything else. And I didn't understand the science behind it. And then I got involved with Dr. James Kroll at a club up there that was doing deer necropsies. And he explained the science behind it and how things worked. And then being there 3 years with deer necropsies and watching this, and I could see the evolution of things happening. I'm like, okay, this actually makes sense now.
And I remember when you were up there and you live streamed it, and I was at work listening in and watching it while I could. Right. But yeah, he kind of put a lot of things in perspective. Yeah. And he explained a lot of things that a lot of the questions kind of like, well, what if? What if it? Mm-hmm. Well, this, like late bred doe is going to throw a buck fawn. Right. And he was showing the fetuses and he could measure them and count back, and they would get, this was the first week of November, or right. Second week or whatever. Right. But he did a great job of doing that, and I think getting that out, and that's the education part.
Right, yeah, educating hunters. This week, there was a guy I saw on Facebook, and he was very critical of his neighbor cramming QDMA down his throat. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I understand you don't cram something down somebody's throat because that's going to push them, in a bad direction. First off, but my response and a lot of other guys' response was to come back saying, hey, you got a neighbor that's kind of pushy and a loudmouth and really shouldn't be doing that. We understand, but don't knock QDMA. I mean, look at the science behind it. And I kind of went through what we're talking about in the show right now. I went through that whole process in my post with them. I used to feel this way about it as well, but I started listening to the science, and I started listening to the direction of things that were pointing in certain areas with deer herd management. And I said, and my evolution as a hunter has turned, and this is where I'm at now. And then I opened up my door to him. I said, I found out he was in the same area. He's here in the Flint area, and I said, hey, if you want, I said, we live in the same area. I said, you're more than welcome to go up to my camp when we have our annual co-op meeting. We've started a co-op. And I said, just come up and see what we're doing. Open that door.
Absolutely.
Be inviting.
And be inviting, be educating. And like you said, don't cram it down their throats.
Yeah. Right? It's like I told them, I said, everybody doesn't have to get off at the same destination. I said, we all want a healthy herd. I said, what we're looking at is getting everybody on a bus and traveling in a direction. I said, where you get off on that direction, along the trip is up to you individually. Everybody doesn't get to the very end destination right away. Some people get off at the first stop. Some people get off midway point. Some get off at the very end.
We should have that on our board here.
What's that?
Our bus traveling. Because I think that analogy is probably one of the best that we use.
Well, it's true.
Getting everybody on the bus is one thing.
Yeah.
Starting the bus, and then getting to where we want to go.
And what is the bus? What does the bus represent? The bus represents to me a healthy herd.
Yep, exactly.
That's all it is.
And I think, this was a couple weeks back, but
better hunting.
They came out with a study that said we're moving the age that is being killed now up
a little bit. Yeah,
it's not just a year and a half is the main. It's now starting to tick up.
Yeah,
which means a lot more people are getting on board.
Well, when APRs first raised their head here in Michigan, I was aggravated about that. But that was back at that time when I was in that whole mindset before I made this turn into herd management. And I'm starting to understand things a little better. And you look at the northwestern lower Michigan, they're starting to shoot a lot of mature bucks up there.
Right.
And, they're managing their herd.
Yep, exactly. So, and we're trying in the UP. We in a way have APRs, but we can't kill the does, though, because our herd numbers are down exponentially. Now, unfortunately, I wish the DNR would broaden the outlook of the UP and kind of start going in and really defining areas that
pockets
need to be
that need to be managed versus a broad brush.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I got you.
Right now, there's a big thing going on up there. There's a group up there. It's the habitat for the wintering grounds. They're trying to get that regenerated to a point where they're bigger, they're better, getting those deers into the wintering ground so they can survive these winters that we have.
Right.
So there's a group up there that's doing that. They're taking a bull by the horns. But yeah, it's the evolution of us as we get older.
Well, look, we got a few minutes here in this segment left. Where do you see yourself in the future? I mean, looking ahead. I mean, we kind of joked about this last night. I said, what are we going to do for our next 400th show? You said, what, 800? That's, 10 years out.
Right, exactly.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years from
now?
In
5 to 10 years, I think you and I, the way we're going, individually, seeing us grow the way we're going, and maybe turning what we've started today, you a year ago, and seeing that come to a point where, hey, I turned my property around, and now we are shooting those bigger bucks. For you guys, your whole area is shooting the bigger bucks.
Yeah.
It's good that you got a co-op. But yeah, I think keep on growing the way we are, becoming, I guess, mentors, as you will, mentors of education.
That's where I'd like to see actually Up North Journal even go. What we're doing here as far as education. I've got my fingers in a few things right now that we're trying to get some things going as far as doing a little research and a little education.
Right, and I think, and we've talked about this, education is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can, like you said, don't cram it down their throats.
Right.
But let them see it, experience it, feel it, and educate them as to why we're here today and how we got here. They'll be like, we can do that.
Yeah, it's like, let them raise that question in their mind. How are they doing that? Why are they so successful? Or why are they shooting, more mature bucks on their property? Or, why is their buck to doe ratio right? Or why are they raising healthy fawns? Or, why is their bear population good? Why is their turkey population good? And those things, or why, how do they grow that forage for those deer? Whatever it is, across the board, all those things.
And that's where I hope, with this logging project of ours, getting our acreage up to that point, hopefully it'll be a success. It might not be 100% success, but it'll be a success maybe to where I get the property how I wanted to see it.
Right.
That'd be a success.
Right.
If we have the added bonus of changing, and it's different when the genetics you're playing with genetics.
Right.
Getting those changed takes a while. It's not an overnight thing. So hopefully by what we do changes that and helps that. And we have at our 800th episode, we have a great success story for both of us.
Right on. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a step outside, take our last break. We come back. There's something that's going on that's been a hot topic here in Michigan for the last week. We want to touch base on that before we wrap up the show, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. So we're going to step outside, and we'll be right back after this.
I shoot PSE because I like one pin to 40 yards.
I shoot PSE for the perfect combination of feel and performance.
I shoot PSE because you can shoot lighter poundage and increase arrow speed.
I shoot PSE for the fastest bows on the planet. I shoot PSE because my livelihood depends on my bow.
I shoot PSE because better engineering makes a better bow.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE. I shoot PSE.
Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Throughout human history, one notorious killer has remained at the top and claimed more lives than any war or natural disaster combined. Mosquitoes. It's time to arm yourself and protect your family this season with Scent Blocker's new Bug Blocker for insects. Lasting up to 8 hours, Bug Blocker not only repels biting mosquitoes that can carry the West Nile virus, but other biting insects, including chiggers, biting flies, gnats, and ticks which can carry Lyme disease. Field tested by outfitters and guides from Alaska to Alabama and everywhere in between. The results are in, and Bug Blocker flat out works. In a high-potency sportsman strength dosage, using 25% no-nonsense DEET, plus 2 specific ingredients to target biting flies, Bug Blocker plays for keeps. For ultimate protection, pair Bug Blocker insects with Bug Blocker ticks.
Welcome back, everybody. Last segment of episode 400. So, from here, it's onward and upward to 500.
Yes, sir.
Approximately 2 years away.
2 years from now could be our 500th show, which we've already started thinking about where and when, and that could be really interesting.
Could be.
But no, kind of reflecting back on the last segment, where we want to go, I'd definitely like to see that.
Something I haven't done yet. I
was going to say something, but I was like,
For those on the live stream, this is where we started, changing hats here, and the new logo, I call this the 2017 Up North Journal logo.
Right.
This is our third logo change.
Yes.
Since we started, but that's kind of where we started. So, yeah, I'm going to switch hats here.
Talking about the educating part, and there's a lot of things going on in the state right now that, man, it's all over the board. We've had a CWD case pop up.
Yep.
We've had some interesting takes on that from various sources.
Yep.
We have our what are they calling that, experiment going on in Ann Arbor?
Yeah, it's, to me, it's like a Frankenstein experiment. Let's start there. We've reported on this before. Down in Ann Arbor, instead of culling the deer that are in the city limits, they chose to.
Well, they're doing both.
They were. Yep, you're right. But they chose now to go in and basically spay the does.
They're going to give a hysterectomy to all the does.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it was 54.
54. Yep.
And
they did this.
They got a company, and the DNR gave permission.
Trap 54 does.
And give them a hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
And then sew them back up and release them back into the wild.
Now, we're talking doing this in January, a period of high-stress time, not a lot of feed around. So that's the way they trap these deer typically is they'll bring them into bait because they're not being fed on a regular basis because there's not a lot of green out there for them to chew on. And once they capture these deer, they knock them out, they tranquilize them.
I do have to admit, it's a procedure that takes less than a 2-hour time frame.
Is it? I
was reading the article before we went on. They shot it, the one that we're talking about, they shot it at 7:30, tranquilized it at 7:30, and by 9:30 it was back out.
Okay, so they give them a hysterectomy, basically pull their ovaries out, they're done, sew them back up, let them go. And one of the 54 died this week.
Number 32.
Number 32 is what it was? Okay.
Yep. Found it in distress. Actually, I was reading the article. The deer, they released the deer, and a couple days later, it started acting weird. It was starting to walk up to cars. It was in the middle of the street, just looking around. It started walking up to cars. Somebody called. They came. They called this company. This company came and located the deer. The deer was sitting like a sphinx, they said.
Okay.
And it was just really in distress.
So they euthanized it.
They euthanized it. They thought it was this deer. Something's up with this deer.
Right.
They don't. Okay, so reading this article, they sent the deer for necropsy. They're going to post the results when they get those back. But at first look, they said that there was the incision was okay. There was no discharge. There was no bleeding. They don't think it was because of the hysterectomy. They think it was a pre-existing condition
that was exacerbated by the tranquilizer.
Correct.
And that's the problem with when you start tranquilizing deer, especially at high stress times.
And that's one thing that is the art of tranquilizing deer, relocating deer. It doesn't always go well.
No,
they're not a very good animal to do that with.
No. It's at that point, take the money that you're going to put into this project. Let's take these deer. If you're gonna try to call a herd, shoot them. Take and donate the meat to Hunters for Hungry or some place that needs the meat. You know what I'm saying?
The 54 are under the study, and they're out to call 100 more.
Okay.
That's what they're in the process of doing.
The sharpshooters?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, like you said, I don't know why you couldn't have just said, you know what, let's just take 150 deer. Mm-hmm. Let's call them right now and be done with it.
Right.
Let nature, I don't know. On the other side of this coin is it takes money to do this.
And they've done this before. This isn't the first place.
No, they said this company has done this in other states.
And the results are not what I would call earth-shattering.
And I'm trying to think of a number. I thought I saw this number was about $250,000.
Uh-huh.
Don't quote me on this. But could you have not spent that money more wiser for your community?
More bang for your buck, yeah. No pun intended.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's say you decide to use sharpshooters, call 150, and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or why not just say, hey, and I don't know the rule in Ann Arbor, but I don't know if you can hunt within the city limits, or where these deer are. But why not get more of the hunters involved and say, hey, can we get more hunters to focus? Here's some doe permits.
Right.
Get in there. Let's get these deer and be done with it. I don't know. I don't know the answers to it. It's just I hope I hope our DNR doesn't do this again.
Right.
I hope they just say, you know what? No, we're not going to go into the Bob Barker spay and neuter your cats and dogs. We're not going to do that we're not going to Bob Barker our deer.
Right.
But we're going to do scientifically. If we need to call them, that's fine. Call them, donate the meat, support that method, or maybe turn to some hunting groups that are in the area and say, hey, guys, we need some help here.
Right.
Start reaching out to the hunters that...
Let's come up with some ideas.
There you go. Put a little forum together and say, hey, here's our issue. We got a problem in this area. What can we do as hunters to fix it? And what can the DNR do to support us to do this? And maybe it is calling. Maybe that is the best way at the time and be done with it. I don't know. But I think the Bob Barker method, not so good.
Right on. Well, and that's just one issue that's going on right now in Michigan. Another issue that we've had here is CWD that's raised its head up in a deer farm in Mecosta County here, and basically it's in the central part of the Lower Peninsula. And these were all captive deer. And the story really took a strange twist this week.
Now, refresh my memory here, because I heard it was on a deer farm.
Yep.
And they went in and I'm assuming they eliminated the deer farm.
No, actually, there's another twist even to that.
Oh,
no.
Okay, so
they haven't done. They basically quarantined this farm, and this farm, I believe, was a hunting operation, a high fence hunting operation. But they have not done anything with the animals. Now, the DNR does not work on this. This is Department of Ag, I believe.
Okay.
That handles this. The same that does the cattle industry and the pig industry and all that. Basically farming industry, because once these deer are in this quote unquote a farm, then it's the Department of Ag takes care of this. But they have not went in and euthanized the deer yet, because quote unquote in the article that I read on mlive.com was the owner of the farm was basically in great remorse, or not remorse, grieving. He was in the grieving process. so they didn't want to go in and take the deer. Now, with that being said, they're going around the area of this farm and getting ready to sharpshoot a bunch of deer and test them, okay, to see if this has gotten outside of the deer farm.
Okay.
So now you got landowners around the area that's got hunting property, hunting camps. They're upset because they're coming through and they're gonna snipe a bunch of deer, but they've not taken his deer yet and even checked to see if there's any more inside there. But the big twist comes with the fact, okay, that this is just from what I read in the article. I don't know how this industry works at all, but basically, anytime they have a deer that's taken on his place or it dies, you take and submit the head or the brain tissue to Michigan State University, or you take it to your local veterinarian and he takes the brain matter and sends it in. There's two different ways you can do it. So there's so many deer have to be sent in, periodically, and he was behind his quote unquote quota that he was supposed to send in. So he goes to a local farmer in the area who does deer processing on the side, but it's not licensed to do it, okay? And this deer processor farmer has a pile of deer heads sitting out where he's taking in the deer from wherever in the community and butchering them, packaging them, sending them off. And the farmer, allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly now because this hasn't been, I'm just going by what was read, and I don't want anybody to come back saying, hey, you said.
No.
But allegedly, he's been accused of going over to said deer farmer, picking up a couple heads. He asked him if he could have some deer heads so he could send them in to meet his quota, okay, according to this article. And that's what he sent in, allegedly. And 2 of the deer heads out of the 6 that were submitted came back positive for CWD. They don't know if they came off the deer farm or if they came from this processor. And the other issue is the processor doesn't have quote-unquote records of where these deer came from. So they don't know if they're from the local area or from across the state. They don't know where the CWD came from, basically, now.
They have no clue.
So this has opened up a huge can of worms for the state of Michigan, trying to figure out, Department of Ag figuring out where did this come from. Is it a Department of Ag issue with the deer farm, or is it a DNR issue now with the wild deer herd? And where did they come from? They don't know.
Well, that leaves a huge question mark.
So, this is a problem with regulations and things, and we need regulation on certain things, but when you don't have boots on the ground actually doing the observations and taking the samples,
or when you're
it's done on the honor system, there's an opportunity to skate around it.
Or, oh boy, here we go. Like you said, boots on the ground, and this goes back to a mandatory deer check.
Because if they had a mandatory deer check,
they could say,
they would know where those deer came from, because the guy did keep, I think he said he kept a record of whose deer he took in. Okay. So they would know whose deer, like there's a pile of deer heads there. Okay, give me all your records for this year. We're going to go through and we're going to search. Okay, Danny, you brought a deer over here. Where did you shoot that deer?
They're going to have to do some legwork to figure out where these all came from.
Well, if you had a mandatory deer check, you could go through and you'd know exactly where it was taken at.
Yep.
Well,
was this a licensed butcher?
No, that's the other issue. And the gentleman that was doing this, he said he fully expects to be fined. They haven't fined him yet.
Oh, I'm sure it's only a matter of time.
But they will levy some fines on that, and they've shut the whole process down. So,
yeah, it just goes to, I don't know, a lot of what ifs. What if the deer came from a different state? What if the deer came from the Upper Peninsula? What if the deer came from northern Lower? What if the deer came from?
Well, just like, okay, I shot a doe up at my camp, Alcona County. I brought it all the way down here to Genesee County, and I actually shot Hiwassee County to a deer processor. They write my name down and my home information and say, okay, it's going to be this much. You need to pick it up on this date, or we'll call you.
Yep.
And that's what it was. Tom Covert, he just typed in, he had heard the same thing about the skulls being picked up from a local processor. And he also said, that, talking about the Ann Arbor deal, he said he would like to have seen a lottery opened up to hunt on the public lands as opposed to the sharpshooting. And I agree.
Like I said,
it's a way to raise money.
That is a perfect example of where you get people together and brainstorm it and say, a guy like Tom, hey, what about having a lottery on public lands? Yeah. Get some people in there to hunt. Give them a week. Go in there. Mm-hmm. You can pick your method how you want to hunt it. If it's within, if you want to do shotgun zone or no shotgun, maybe it's bow only. I don't know.
Or look up here where the CWD is in Mecosta County. You've got deer co-ops. You've got people with hunting camps around that area. How about getting with those people that own that land and getting them to go in there?
Go to that one. I would think you need to, instead of just saying, hey, you know what, we're going to go around the outside of the fence, start and shoot things, you might want to contact those people that are bordering wherever that is, get them together and say, hey,
let's come up with a plan.
Show it to them. This is our problem. We want to do this.
What are some suggestions?
And what do you guys think of us doing this?
Right.
I think if you present it that way and show them what you're thinking about, as opposed to going back to what we said, cramming it down their throats.
Right. Yeah.
No. Get the people involved in the decision making.
Get the conversation going. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Right. And if you gotta, my hardest thing is when I talk to some people, is because they're dead set as to what their focus is, that if you talk to them, it either goes in one ear out the other ear, and they don't see it. It's like, but you gotta be, if you're gonna do this, you gotta be open minded.
Yeah.
You gotta say, oh, hey, that's a good idea.
Right.
We'll take it under consideration.
Well, it's just the same thing that's going on right now in America with the political process. And I mean, let's not even jump into that whole arena right now. But you think about what's going on in America right now in the big division. Well, we've got that on a smaller scale here in the outdoors. Between the DNR or the government officials in whatever state you're on, and the hunters, there always seems to be a faction working against each other. And what's the common thing we got in the middle? The outdoors. The outdoors is what everybody cares about.
Right.
Well, let's figure ways to work together and get on the bus, drive in that common direction, and figure out some answers along the way, to where both sides can gain a little traction and get what they're looking to get out of it.
One of the great examples that we're going to find out here coming down the road is the Asian carp.
That's going to be a huge problem if that ever gets in the Great Lakes.
It's already in. It's just, I'm just waiting. I think it's already in, and I think they've found
scales.
They found scales, and it's like
in the water.
And the reason back over on the other side of the state, over by Chicago, they didn't want to was because of. They wanted to. I thought they wanted.
It was a transportation issue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it wasn't about saving the environment, saving the fisheries of the Great Lakes. It was about mode of transportation.
It was about the almighty dollar.
Yeah, that's what it boiled down to.
That's what
it always boils
down to. Go back
to
the zebra mussel.
Yep.
Oh well, how did they get into the Great Lakes? Oh, they had these foreign ships in their ballast, unloading in the Great Lakes.
Yep.
Instead of making them do it before they got here.
Yep.
No, because we don't want to.
Inconvenience them.
And
slow them down.
Well, luckily, I think the zebra mussel has run its course.
Yeah, seems to be on the downhill.
I think
side.
it has, but no, it's just one of those things. I think, like you said, you got to get it in front of the people. And you can do it locally. We got it locally in Ann Arbor. We got it locally in Mecosta. Get that group in the localized area. Get them together, but don't keep it. I don't know how you want to do it. But get it out to the rest of the state. Say, hey, we had a little group in whatever county. We talked about it. Here's our options. We're going to go with this. So everybody knows what you're doing, and you've talked to people. You're not just being a dictator saying,
right.
We're going to go in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and be done with it. It kind of like another thing that came out this week was the big bill out west.
Right, absolutely. We haven't even talked about that on the show.
Right, exactly. That was a grassroots movement. Hey, they introduced a bill that they want to sell off these lands. Now, I've seen some back and forth on this. Oh, I don't want the government to have the land. I want it in the state's hands. Well, yes and no.
Yep.
There's a fine edge here. But it was like, so the bill was put up. Everybody got together. The word got out. And finally, the senator who introduced the bill got all these phone calls and everything. And he realized, hey, there's something, the people are speaking. And he's a hunter himself.
Right.
So he just didn't go, oh, okay, you don't want this. No, he said, hold on. You've spoken. I've heard it. And we're going to kill it.
Yep.
So it does work.
Well, it was just like, actually, this is one of the guys I hunt with. Chad says, he'd like to see better communication from the DNR to the hunters, and it shouldn't be like an us versus them, and that's the issue.
Exactly what we're talking about.
Yep. You got to work together, and those are the things, and, without giving too much away, I've been in talk with a few guys, and that's the biggest issue the DNR has right now is they feel that they're seen only as a ticket writing agency, and they're trying to work around that. Well, you know what? Right now, if they can get in front of this CWD issue, if the DNR does take control of this because it becomes a wild deer versus a captive deer issue, they've got the opportunity to work with the outdoorsmen in the area and come up with a solution versus being the guys that come in with the heavy hammer and go, we're going to do this. This is what you're going to do. End of story. Now, they have a CWD plan, that reaction plan, and they pretty well do follow that, and they've gotten good reviews on the fact of the way they do handle things. And it basically is, it's come in and it's kill off deer right around the core area where they find it.
And I think with that plan is a good plan. I've read that plan, and it's been out in the public. But I think this is
get the landowners involved.
Because this is an issue with a high fence deal. First of all, determine if this is isolated to within the fence.
Right. How do you do that though?
Right. Okay. So then step 2 is get the people involved around that. Mm-hmm. Say, hey guys, we need to take a few deer around from. This is why. Explain, and get the word out there. Says okay, and now we're going to tell the rest of everybody out there that this is why we're doing XYZ. Because ABC gets us to XYZ. This is the plan. This is what we're going to do. And that goes, and we're talking just hunting, but this goes into the fishing part too.
Absolutely. Because, just like you said with the Asian carp.
The Asian carp, how come Saginaw Bay, you talk to plenty of guys up there, they actually dropped down the size limit because...
Oh, for the walleye.
The walleye thing,
right?
And it's like they were all getting these little guys, and it's like, oh, too small. But it's almost like they stunted themselves out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a good one.
Well, and that's part of the guys I was talking to about talking with the DNR about certain things that they're doing and programs that they're running and using our money from the Pittman Robertson Fund, number 1, where our tax money goes into the outdoors, along with all of our license fees. We really don't see what they're doing, out there in the field. We don't get to see the testing and the reports and all the things that they're doing to try to help and move and mold the outdoors. And that's where they need to get that message to us.
One of the big things,
and start to change that mindset
with anything is, and this goes for any industry, from basket weaving to nuclear bombs, is you've got to have good communication within your organization and good PR communication, so the people looking in don't get preconceived
notions.
Ideas.
Yeah, and we see it with our own government transparency. True transparency. Now, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. We've seen it with the old administration. We're seeing it with the new administration. No matter what political side you're on, you're always on guard. You're always looking with a critical eye. There's nothing wrong with that. But they need to be held accountable. But those administrations and whoever they are and whatever they're dealing with need to open it up to the public and show them exactly what they're doing.
And when you do it, use, I'm going to say a big word here, common sense, and make it where it's understandable. Don't
talk over their heads.
Don't talk over their heads. Don't talk down to them. Talk with them on their level, and don't use. You can use all the scientific words that you want, but simplify it to say, hey, this means this. This is what we mean.
Yep.
Not talk way up here where the little guy goes,
Yeah, you're way off in the weeds and nobody understands what you're trying to say.
Right. That's the thing. Communication. It's amazing that it was believed that somebody was going to take office, walk into the white and push the red button.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, let's go back one step and think common sense. Mm-hmm. Do you really think so? No. Again, I hope with this, like he said, communication.
Yeah, that's the key to all this. So,
just like we do every week here, we
400 times.
400 times we communicate. We haven't missed too many. Hopefully, this upcoming 400th year that we're 400th year, I did it again.
I'm not Methuselah, man.
Actually, coming up on the 10-year anniversary.
Yes.
As we roll in through our 400s of shows.
Yep. In April, end of April.
We just get bigger, we get better, and we don't stop, doing what we do.
Right.
I love it.
And as always, we couldn't do this without you guys out there supporting us and listening to the show, giving us feedback, just like we've got here on the show today with a live stream. And the people who send us emails and things and comments, it's what keeps us going. We love the interaction with our listeners and our followers, so don't quit doing that. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. Shoot us an email, a Facebook post, send us pictures of game you're taking, or even if it's just out canoeing, whatever, you're out enjoying the outdoors. We love to see that kind of stuff and be able to share it and talk about it. We couldn't do it without our sponsors. We got the big ones rolling here in the background. You've heard the commercials that we run. You've heard our billboard announcements going into and out of the show of those people who support us. And those are people we truly believe in. So if you're looking for some great outdoor gear, make sure that you patronage our sponsors.
Right, exactly. You see the sponsors if you're watching the live feed. You see the sponsors up on the back. Don't forget Family Traditions Tree Stands.
Yep.
Tom's Turkey Calls.
Tom Custom Turkey Calls.
And
Badass Slingshots.
Badass Slingshot. And don't forget
Jim Beasley
over at Spot Shooters,
absolutely,
who works on our bows and helps us out when we need it, and he does a good thing over there.
He does. He's got some archery classes going on. He's teaching people basic archery, advanced archery. So if it's something you're looking at, get into it.
And he has broken it down from A to Z, whether you're a beginner or experienced.
Absolutely. So all those people help us in some way, shape, or form. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate Danny being here every week. Appreciate the shirt you wore in my honor today. So
that's right.
Had to explain that a little bit, but it's all good. I hope I'm around for I try to take these 100 at a time. So I'm looking forward to our 500th show.
That works for me.
If you're looking beyond that, that's 2 years chunk of time at a time.
That's right.
And I can manage that. But look for some things coming out of us here at Up North Journal this year. Thanks to Mara and Cody for what they do down in Ohio. Mara's finishing up school, and she's working on some films and things of that nature that we were hoping to show, but we can't quite show them just yet.
Nope,
we're still waiting on that.
Can't do it yet, under wraps.
So
can talk about them, but can't show them.
Absolutely. And Cody's hitting it hard on the water, doing some fishing, and he's got his bait company, Champion Baits.
Right.
ChampionBaits.com?
Yes.
Okay, go over and check it out if you're looking for some fishing baits. And
well, you know what? We're going to get him on the show, talk about him. We're
right.
going to get some pictures of him because he's starting to ramp up because he is starting to get the itch.
Yeah, well, we seen the video he put together, his first video he did.
Right.
And that's from our fishing trip last year. So
exactly.
So you can check that over on our Facebook page. But, get out there, hit it hard, guys, gals. And as we've said for almost 10 years now, if you're in the woods or on the water, shoot straight and be safe. Until next time on the Up North Journal. This episode of the Up North Journal podcast was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooter Archery,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Antler Action,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.